Take 30 with Shayna Estulin.
Today was the deadliest day in years for Americans in Syria. 2 U.S. troops and 2 American civilians were killed in a suicide attack in the northern city of Manbij. ISIS is claiming responsibility, and this comes weeks after the president declared that ISIS had been defeated and that he planned on withdrawing troops from Syria. RJ Hickson has this report for us, and a warning: the video we're about to show you is graphic.
This is the moment an explosion rocked a restaurant in the city of Manbij, Syria. A ball of fire engulfed a crowded street, sending people running for cover. It claimed the lives of several Americans, including U.S. service members and civilians. Now, the Islamic State is claiming responsibility for the suicide attack.
And we have won against ISIS.
The deadly blast comes just 1 month after President Trump announced that ISIS had been defeated in Syria and that he would withdraw U.S. troops as soon as possible. And on Wednesday, shortly after it was reported that American soldiers were killed in the Manbij attack, Vice President Mike Pence repeated President Trump's claim that ISIS is dead in Syria.
Thanks to the leadership of this commander-in-chief and the courage and sacrifice of our armed forces, we're now actually able to begin to hand off the fight against ISIS in Syria to our coalition partners, and we are bringing our troops home. The caliphate has crumbled, and ISIS has been defeated.
Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, who was initially critical of the president's plans to pull out of Syria, expressed concerns following the deadly explosion.
My concern by the statements made by President Trump is that you'd set in motion enthusiasm by the enemy we're fighting. You make people who are trying to help wonder about us. And as they get bolder, the people we're trying to help are going to get more uncertain.
Prior to the explosion on Wednesday, only 2 U.S. service members have been killed while stationed in Syria over the past 5 years. Today, there are about 2,000 troops in the country with no immediate date for withdrawal. This recent attack may have an impact on the president's future plans for U.S. troops, as critics believe ISIS still has a dangerous influence on the region.
I would hope the president would look long and hard of where he's headed in Syria. I know people are frustrated, but we're never going to be safe here unless we're willing to help people over there who will stand up against this radical ideology.
RJ Hickson, I-24 News.
Let's go to Matthew Brodsky. He's a national security analyst and senior fellow at the Security Studies Group. Matthew, welcome. We'll get to Lindsey Graham's comments in a moment. But first, this restaurant in Manbij, it was a restaurant that U.S. troops were known to go to. Do you believe this was a targeted attack?
Oh, it's absolutely a targeted attack. I think a better question that I think we'll be able to answer, I think, in the coming days and weeks is, did ISIS really act alone? Because for this type of, for the intelligence that was required to carry out the attack, seems like it would have required the intelligence services from another group or another entity other than ISIS. It's not.
What do you mean by that? What kind of
intelligence?
What kind of intelligence would they have needed?
I'm just saying that if I were looking at looking into this investigation, the fact that ISIS can carry out attacks and suicide bombings, sure, that's what they do, IEDs, right, of course. But they've been greatly reduced, and in this area, it required intelligence to pinpoint a location where these people were going to be meeting and to kill these Americans. And someone would need to know in advance that that is happening. So we'd have to look at who was privy to that type of information. That part is not all clear yet. And then you'd also have to look at who would have a motive at this point for creating an attack, whether it's to force the President Trump to stay and to stiffen his spine, or whether it makes him pull out sooner. I mean, hopefully we'll find this out more in the days to come. But it may not be as simple as ISIS carried out an attack. It may very well be, but I'm just saying there's more to this, perhaps.
You know, nothing is ever simple in that region. You talk about ISIS being less of a threat now, but they still are a presence there. They have not been defeated, despite Mike Pence after this attack saying they've been defeated. Then you have Lindsey Graham really upset at the president's actions around this. I want to replay what he said.
My concern by the statements made by President Trump is that you'd set in motion enthusiasm by the enemy we're fighting. You make people who are trying to help wonder about us. And as they get bolder, the people we're trying to help are going to get more uncertain. I saw this in Iraq, and I'm now seeing it in Syria.
I mean, he has a fair point, and we know that the president also criticized Obama for telegraphing a withdrawal. Do you think the president needs to look at this whole situation differently?
Absolutely. Lindsey Graham is absolutely spot on with this. The fact is, ISIS, of course, wasn't defeated, hasn't been defeated. The most charitable way of looking at Vice President Pence's comments today is perhaps he was talking about the physical caliphate area. Physically, yes, it's been decimated and destroyed, but we know from the Pentagon's last estimate that there's some 30,000 ISIS members in Iraq and Syria alone, and some 200 to 300 strikes were carried out in the week just before President Trump made his tweet. That announcement came just hours before President Trump tweeted about the withdrawal on December 19th. So ISIS isn't defeated, and that's, of course, just one of the goals, if you ask the State Department or the National Security Council, that we have inside of Syria. So yeah, we'll see if there's a reversal or a change. Who knows?
In the last 30 seconds we have here, do you believe this will speed up the withdrawal or slow it down?
President Trump is difficult to read in this, right? It could go one of the two ways. Either he stiffens his spine and says we're not leaving, or he does. I wouldn't want to venture a guess. I hope that it makes us redouble our effort. If we're just going to try to militarily go after ISIS and not be concerned about any of the future of Syria, that we at least stay and finish that job. But hopefully we finish that job and we include the other aspects that our very capable Syria team that he empowered and put in place have been up to for the past several months.
Yeah, either way, a terrible situation there, especially for the families of those U.S. troops and the civilians. Matthew Brodsky, thank you for coming on and talking about this with us. Theresa May